I trapped myself in Silksong and my only way out is 100%ing this game. So until I've collected all 18 spool fragments, 20 mask shards, 51 tools, freed all 30 fleas, and defeated all of the ridiculously hard bosses in this game, I can't even think about the rest of my Steam library. And oh boy, was this game difficult. Now, that might not be immediately evident by how fast we can heal 3 lives in this game, but that begs the question, how much harder is Silksong going to be if we're given this ridiculously good heal? Before long, we found the first boss called Moss Mother, and this felt like a very easy Hollow Knight boss, so the facade was still up for now. Oh, that's so cool. After a brief stop in the NPC hub Bowen Bottom, we travel east towards the Marrow, only to discover that you have to pay for some of the benches in this game. While just a mild inconvenience right now, this mechanic would cause great distress in the future. Eventually we found the map NPC Chakra, a mask shard, our first skill Silk Spear, and completed a quest because those are now a thing in this game. As a reward, we were given a tool. Tools are like the charms of this game, except they've now been separated into 3 different categories, and instead of charm slots, you're restricted to 1 tool from each category. I can't believe we've only fought 1 boss so far. I wonder if I missed them. Unless this will be a boss fight. Okay, Bell Beast. It's gonna probably dash through, yes. Double damage fight right off the bat. It's only the second boss. Oh, wow. Okay. That's insane, though. A double damage fight this early into the game. That's a little concerning. It was very concerning. Do you know how many double damage bosses were in all of Hollow Knight? Just 10. All of which are late game, where you've usually increased your life already. While I was able to take down this boss after a couple more tries, the bosses would only get more and more complex from here. After the fight, we get a silk heart that will regenerate 1 bar of silk whenever it depletes. So, not a huge upgrade or anything, but we need it for completion. Then, we find out that that Bell Beast is actually our fast travel in this game. But we're not ready to leave the Marrow just yet. Oh, that's a boss. Oh shit, okay. It's actually just a mini boss, and this challenge may have been a mistake. Oh, there's stuff up here. How did I miss this? Inside this cell, we got another tool called the straight pin, but this one works a little differently from the others. Light throwing tool designed for rapid attacks. We have 12. This tool is a consumable weapon, and whenever we set at a bench, Hornet will auto-craft more of them using shard fragments that drop from enemies. These red tools can be extremely effective, and I'd say my biggest mistake in this run was underutilizing them. I eventually defeated the mini-boss after realizing I only had 2 different attacks, but not before sustaining irreparable damage to my ego. I then obtained a craft medal and traveled down to the deep docks where I found a vendor called the Forge Daughter. She was selling another red tool, which looked to be an interesting weapon, and a magma bell, which wards against lava and heat around the area. And after taking a quick peek around the zone, I figured the latter would be a good idea. However, I tragically didn't realize that this was a tool and not just an upgrade, so I played through the entire area without ever putting it on. Not my proudest moment, but we need it for completion and it will still come in handy later on. Okay, this looks important. Spool fragment. 2 fragments will combine into 1 spool, which will increase our silk capacity so we can dish out more skills and heal more often. I then explored the area some more and found our next silk skill. Swift stab. Oh, it's a dash. Oh. It's a dash into sprint. Whoa! Afterwards, I found the boss of this area called Lace, and she has a much more complex moveset than the bosses we've seen before. However, this is one of the rare bosses in this game that doesn't deal 2 masks of damage, so I actually found it to be really easy. Next up, I made my way into the far fields, picked up another tool, died to some lava, and then found Chakra, who had the map for this area. Unfortunately, having just died, I didn't have enough rosaries to buy it, so I dropped down the ledge to get them back. But then I made a critical error. What I should have done here was save and quit to go grab the map. But instead, I decided to see what was inside this building. I found an NPC who had another quest for us, and also a free bench. So naturally, I sat on it. The problem with sitting at this bench is that I currently do not have a way back up to where Chakra is, which effectively means that I'll have to do this whole section of Farfields blind until I can figure out how to get that upgrade. I'm just trying to go up and left to get back to the map so I can figure out where the hell I am. I of course had no idea I couldn't get back up yet, so I spent entirely too long wandering around trying to figure it out before giving up and finishing up the quest we received. Yeah, so we used it to float up. Okay, hold A in the air. So after getting another mask shard, I traveled back towards Chakra, but was interrupted before I could get there. Boss! I thought this guy was gonna be a boss, dude. Whoa, he looks insane. 4th chorus. This boss was really fun. It had you utilize your new float ability to avoid getting swept into the lava, and you also had to navigate between the platforms that would periodically get slammed down. There were also these 2 explosive rocks that I was definitely supposed to hit onto the boss, but I was way too worried about blowing myself up, so I just continued the fight without them. There we go. We got it first try. Nice. That was a really, really cool looking fight. With that, I could finally get back to Chakra and buy our map. Or so I thought. Oh no. Don't tell me the map person's gone. Eventually, we found a place called Pilgrim's Rest, which is yet another bench that you have to pay for. Except this one is even worse, because as soon as you leave, the door will lock and you'll have to pay the fee again to enter. Apparently you can just disable this by breaking the locking mechanism above the door, but I sadly never figured this out. With our new ability, I ascended from the far fields to a place called Greymore, but not before dying to yet another double damage enemy. Okay. There were quite a few enemy gauntlets here. I cleared most of them on the first try, but I eventually died to one in a place called the Chapel of the Reaper. When you die in Silksong, you drop all of your currency, and it's housed inside a silk cocoon. And just like in the first game, if you die again before getting your currency back, you can kiss those rosaries goodbye. Which made this wrong turn on the way back to my cocoon really tragic. Oh, there's a boss here? We haven't even gotten our stuff back yet. No! We need to do this first try, chat. If not, we lose literally everything. Unfortunately, Moorwing is one of the worst bosses to stumble into in this predicament. What? Oh my god. Oh my god. No! Hundreds of rosaries down the drain. So, it was time for revenge. Or at least that was the plan, but I instead got farmed. The first phase wasn't so bad, but phase 2 gets a lot faster and it introduces new attacks. And all it took was 3 mistakes to be sent all the way back to the opposite side of Greymore. I was getting bodied so bad that my OBS must have crashed to save myself from the embarrassment. Only, on my end, the program still looked like it was recording just fine for some reason. So I didn't notice until an hour later. So, here's a quick recap. Believe it or not, I eventually beat Moorwing and defeated the enemy gauntlet in the chapel to get our first crest. Crests are one of my favorite additions to Hollow Knight, as they change Hornet's moveset. My favorite change with the Reaper's Crest is this wide sweeping down aerial attack that is amazing for pogoing enemies and platforming. Additionally, for 10 seconds after binding, you'll get extra silk from hitting enemies. The drawback to this crest is that you now swing a little slower, but for me this is a worthwhile trade-off. Beyond Moorwing, we found this dead-looking city called Haunted Bellhearts, and to the west of that a new area called Shellwood, where I found a tool called Longpin, and an NPC who wants us to deliver them purple flowers. Which leads us to the present where I'm trying to beat this boss at the top of Shellwood. And while I really liked this fight overall, I wasn't a huge fan of the double damage adds that would spawn in halfway through. I don't know why I was so bad at dealing with them, but they were very frustrating. There we go, okay. That wasn't so bad, we got it. I then picked up a mask shard and searched around for the purple flowers, but for some reason, I couldn't find any. So, I decided to head back to Bone Bottom where we found a brand new quest board with 4 different quests up for grabs. I spent the next 25 minutes completing them to receive a memory locket, which increases the number of tools you can equip, and rosaries, which meant that we can now afford our 4th mask shard and increase our health. Now, to be honest, due to the sheer amount of things that do double damage in this game, we won't really feel this upgrade too much because we'll still die in 3 hits, but I was doing my best not to think about that. From there, I made my way to Hunter's March to hopefully find a new movement upgrade, but instead I found Hollow Knight's version of a bench mimic. I personally found this quite amusing, but had I been on less than 3 hearts, I could see myself reacting a little differently. After picking up a new memory locket, I made my way inside the Chapel of the Beast. Oh, I hear like a boss or something. Yeah, Savage Beastfly, oh god. Okay, seems pretty easy though. For now, until the ads start to spawn in, which is unfortunately a recurring theme in this game. No! Oh, I just jumped into him. Oh my god, it's so far. I was starting to hear the call of my Steam library. I was just 1 click away from escaping this 3-minute run back. Oh, and if you're wondering why I'm doing this to myself, it's because when I first tried Hollow Knight, I gave up on the game for several years before finally coming back to it and realizing how big of a mistake I had made. So, I vowed not to make that same mistake with Silksong. And it's going to take more than a savage beastfly and this run back for me to break it. As for that 3-minute run back, most of it is actually avoidable once you realize the trap on this bench can be disabled. But I wouldn't realize that until a few attempts later. Oh my god, I need a bench closer. This is so awful. And of course, once I disabled this trap, I defeated the beastfly on the next attempt, so it didn't matter anyway. So we're gonna get a new crest, I think? I don't know if we'll like it better than the one we currently have, but Crest of Beast. I won't lie, I think this crest is absolute dog water. The platforming is hard enough for me as it is, and with a downer like this, yeah, no. We're switching back to the Reaper ASAP. but crests count towards completion, so it's not like we wasted any of our time here. With that, we're done with the Hunter's March, and sadly I didn't find that movement upgrade that I was looking for. So I traveled back to Shellwood to continue working on that purple flower quest. I've been struggling to find them. I finally found another one, but it's up there, and I don't see any way to get there without a wall jump. So once again, I left and searched for new areas that would hopefully give us this movement upgrade that I need to progress. I found this area called the Wormways, but was met with another dead end after picking up this new tool. I then checked out Greymore again, and even did a few pogo skips to get to areas that weren't intended for later. I got a new spool fragment for my efforts, and also found this new skill Threadstorm. But I was still missing the movement upgrade. I was getting pretty desperate here, so I even farmed up enough rosaries to open this door in the Wormways to see if that's where we needed to go. Oh, don't tell me the thing I get is locked behind this that I can't even reach. Yeah, we can't reach up there yet, but the key wasn't a total waste because I was now able to access this chapel for the crests of the Wanderer, which is very reminiscent of the Knight's moveset from the first game, but I still prefer the Reaper crest. And at this point, I was completely stumped on how to progress. So I went live the next day to see if anyone in my chat knew what to do here. I really hope I didn't just like get to the point where I should have gotten the ability and then just missed it like I was doing in Hollow Knight a lot. I think you did. Oh god. No, dude. The upgrade was to the left of the boss we fought in Shellwood. But now that we can wall jump, we can finish collecting those flowers. And some of these were really hidden. For instance, the last one requires you to enter from a different area to find it, which may or may not have taken me 30 minutes to realize. But hey, we can now get our crest reward. Applies venom to equipped tools. Okay, that could be good. I think against bosses that don't die immediately. Got some friendly sounding guys down there. Is this gonna be a boss? Widow. What? Whoa! Okay, I didn't think it would do that. I thought it was safe there. What? The Widow was very fun. There were loads of bouncing projectiles to avoid, one attack you had to float over, and a phase 2 that quickens the pace of the fight. Oh, and of course it dealt double damage, which made it take quite a few attempts to learn, but it felt very rewarding when I finally got it down. Whoa! We get an ability from this? Needlein. Oh, right. Yeah, we've seen a ton of these doors. I'm gonna have to remember where all these are. Then we get a little lore sequence here, ring this bell, and go back to Belheart to find that the city has been revived now that the Widow has been slain. And there are even more quests to complete now, so I focused on those for a bit. I saved some fleas for this traveling Flea caravan. This will be an ongoing goal like the grubs from Hollow Knight, and I was rewarded with a new tool that would temporarily increase my attack speed. It also combines with a polyp pouch to apply venom to my needle, which seemed quite strong, so I decided to use this combo here and there during this run. Then, in exchange for killing some crows in Greymore, we're rewarded with a crafting kit, an item that permanently increases our tool damage, which also reminded me that there was another one being sold by the Forge Daughter, and after buying a crafting metal and bone bottom, I was also able to pick up that sting shard tool. While I was there, I found a mask shard that I missed, killed this nearby skull climber for a quest, and stumbled across a new NPC in the Marrow. Lottie tells us that if we can hit a target 15 times, we'll get a reward. And for the modest 25 rosary fee, how could I say no? But what Lottie failed to mention is we can't walk over this line. So, we're disqualified and have to pay the fee to try again. You're joking. Lottie also neglects to tell us that if we miss 3 times during the session, it's also game over. Oh no! Oh god, this is gonna be tough. Now, you've probably noticed that I have not really been using my tools in this run, especially not my pins. So while the targets are fairly easy to hit in the beginning, my pin throwing skills were not ready for what's to come. I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, everything about this. When I started this minigame, I had 187 rosaries to my name, and I now have to work on my aim. We'll be back here soon, but in the meantime, I traveled to Belheart because my chat informed me that I could now get a nail upgrade. Yes. Oh, for free? Oh, dude's goated. Yeah, you hear that, Lottie? After finishing some more quests and getting more rosaries, I went back to the Marrow to get that reward. And on my very first attempt... One more. No! Yeah, it still took a couple tries. But we got a tool pouch expansion as a reward, which allows us to hold more shard fragments. I then farmed up a little bit of rosaries, bought out both the Bone Bottom and Farfield's vendors, and completed this quest for a tool that temporarily increases your life. It's probably really good, but instead of using fragments, you have to come back to this alchemist guy in the Wormways and pay for a top-up. And I just couldn't be bothered doing that. But now that we have the needle ability, we can get inside these locked doors that are scattered around the map. Further inside, we find an NPC named Eva who upgraded our crest. Wait, that's the wrong one. Yeah, the Hunter's Crest is the starting one, and I just loved the Reaper moveset way too much to part with it. The next door like this was in the far fields, but instead of getting a crest upgrade, we obtained a new tool. Draws upon the wearer's own silk to increase sprinting speed. Not a huge upgrade or anything, but a nice tool to have for those runbacks. I then spent about 20 minutes farming rosaries so that we could buy this multi-binder tool that I spotted in Belheart. With that, it was time to progress some more, so I made my way to the blasted steps. I'm not gonna like this place. Ouch. I hate how even the hazards take 2 of your lives. I feel like that's so unnecessary. This is a boss fight, isn't it? Arena, maybe? Yeah, arena. Okay. Oh, maybe not. Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, I hate this. Thankfully, this fight looked much scarier than it actually was, and we beat it on the first attempt. Then we got a nail art from this pinstress, and I won't lie, I think that was the singular time that I used this ability in this run. But this probably counts for completion, so we'll take it. There's actually more to do in the blasted steps, but I totally missed these rings on the ground which were supposed to hint you towards chakra on the map, so we'll be back here later. What? What do you mean? Where did... Yeah, I don't know what caused this, but a Skull Tyrant will ambush Bone Bottom and just kill a bunch of people. But Flick fixes up the place pretty fast, so the only real gameplay difference that I could spot was that the vendor is now gone. Oh, and I guess we also find out why there's no grave in Bone Bottom. Are they gonna throw him off this cliff? Wow, okay. I then noticed an unmapped area above Greymore, so I decided to check it out and found a new place called Sinner's Road. This area had an incredibly annoying maggot debuff that would gradually eat away at your silk, and the only way to get rid of it was to bench or bind. And binding is rather hard to do while you have this debuff eating your silk. Oh, and also that bind won't heal you, so yeah, not a fan of this one. But otherwise, the area was fine. There wasn't a lot to do here yet, but I found a simple key and freed this prince from this cage. In the current state of the Farloom economy, it felt like a smart financial decision to have a prince owe you one, and while this sadly didn't pan out for my wallet, it does unlock a new area much later in this video. I then traveled back to Belheart to purchase a spool fragment and memory locket, and having exhausted all other options, I traveled back to the blasted steps, where we finally found the map and can reach the entrance to the Citadel. Uh-oh. Oh, shit. Okay. I thought we were just gonna get it. I'm so dead. That's such a run back, too. In hindsight, it's pretty funny seeing me complain about this run back, because this isn't even close to the worst one in the game. But I would be making this run back quite a few times, because this boss was hard. I struggled a lot more than I probably should have in this fight, because I wasn't respecting its flail attack enough. As soon as you see the judge start winding this up, you have to dash out. But I kept getting greedy and was going for one too many hits than I should have. Oh, and of course there's a phase 2. What? So, it took me 20 minutes to take this thing down and get into the Citadel. Yes! But that means we've officially made it to Act 2. Okay, they got me with that one. Well, that's not good. Before we can access the rest of the Citadel, we have to first make our way through the underworks, where we're once again hit with a pay-per-use bench. But the anti-homelessness measures were the least of our problems, because they have attached saw blades to the thwomps guarding this area. We then found this new mode of transport called the Venturka, which is how we'll fast travel around the Citadel, because this place is so huge that it needs its own separate mode of transport. Then, after defeating an enemy gauntlet, I was rewarded with a spool fragment and picked up a new tool before making my way out of the underworks and back into the Citadel, where I found yet another spool fragment and a familiar face. Oh shit. Lace 2? Not quite. First, we had some exploring to do. As I said, the Citadel is absolutely massive. I spent a solid 15 minutes just exploring all the different rooms that I came across, and in that time I had just barely scratched the surface of the area. Eventually, we reached the first shrine, ring this bell, and unlock the second NPC hub of this game called Songlave. Though, there's not much to do here yet, so I kept exploring. Oh no, it's definitely a boss fight. I had just been introduced to the Cogwork dancers, and they are easily one of my favorite bosses in this game. There are 2 bosses to deal with in this fight, and things start off pretty slow. All of the moves are extremely telegraphed, so despite there being 2 bosses that you have to pay attention to, it's quite easy, but the tempo would soon increase. Phase 2 was really tricky, so it took quite a few attempts to get this down. But I didn't mind, because I absolutely love the premise of this fight. And it felt incredibly fair because they're very clearly showing you where they're about to attack. There's a 3rd phase? The one synchronized attacks were now alternating between each other, which really threw off my rhythm. Oh no. But now that I knew what to expect, to my surprise, I completed phase 3 on the next attempt, and... Please? Why is there still one over there? No! No! There's not a 4th phase, bro. Ooh. I was blown away by this boss's design, the music, mechanics, and even the lore surrounding this fight was incredible. And I'm not usually one to give too many points for lore in boss fights, but this is a serious contender for my favorite fight in Silksong. Okay. I got so scared. After the fight, we're tasked with learning 3 different songs from across the Citadel for these guys. I don't know who or what they are, but that's okay because we definitely need this to 100% the game. After the fight, I found an NPC called Mergwin, who agreed to trade some pale oil for some food ingredients. Pale oil is the ingredient we need to upgrade our nail again. But we won't do this quite yet because, to put it mildly, this quest is rather involved. For now, I completed a quest to find the Merchant of Songlave and entered a place called the White Ward, where we found a new tool called the Injector Band. This tool allows you to bind faster and is easily one of my favorite tools in this game. From there, I unlocked a passage to a part of the underworks that had previously been blocked off to me. Here I was able to get another craft medal, but more importantly, our next silk skill. The claw line is incredibly fun to use. It allows you to latch onto walls, platforms, and even enemies. Before leaving the underworks, I grabbed another spool fragment and used our claw line to reach yet another vendor. Ooh. I only had 1 craft medal to spend, so I just went with the Cogwork wheel tool. Whoa, okay. That seems like it could be pretty good. Now that I had the claw line, we can reach this weave nest in the wormways and get the new skill that's inside. This ability gives you some iframes so you can dash through enemies and deal damage to them in the process. However, being a skill instead of a dash upgrade like it is in Hollow Knight, it requires silk, so it's not nearly as spammable, and I didn't really find this one too useful. I then went back to Greymore to turn in a quest we were working on for a tool pouch upgrade, and then found an interesting new enemy. Whoa, this guy's new. Are we going to go to a place? Is this like Dark Souls? There are 2 ways to get to the slab. One is through the Citadel, and the other is by getting abducted in Greymore. But there's a big difference between the 2, because in this case, you have to play through this area naked without any of your gear. As you'd expect, we do no damage without our needle, so the slab was pretty miserable. There's a ton of locked doors here that you have to unlock with different keys scattered around the area, and the whole place just felt like a maze, which was only worsened by the fact that they hid the map to this area. Oh my god. Oh my god. I hate that. I may have found the map, but that wouldn't do a whole lot without the next key, which I could not find anywhere. Is there anything in here? There's that thing. There's this. Oh my god. Yeah, I totally missed this lock and could have opened this door like 20 minutes ago. I can't even blame the game now. That's just stupid of me. But with that, we travel outside and around to where those enemies had our stuff. Oh shit, that was insane. It switched my crest. Why would it switch my crest? I was very rusty with the Hunter's Crest, so I ended up dying on the first gauntlet attempt. But on the second attempt, I got it down, received the next key, and was able to unlock some more doors. After grabbing this spool fragment, we're done with the slab for now, and are free to go. And believe me, I was really tempted to get out of here. But there's another area west of here that we don't want to miss out on because we get a very necessary upgrade at the end of it. This is Mount Fae. a massive platforming area that also has cold damage mechanics. Now, if you watch my Hollow Knight video, you'll know that I'm not a particularly great platformer, and because of this cold mechanic, we have to do this fast, because otherwise I'll die to the cold before I can make it to the next safe area. It's also very easy to accidentally go the wrong way here, and oftentimes doing so will result in a death and send you back to the bottom of the mountain. But the worst was yet to come. 30 minutes later, I finally made it to the next bench, and I would have... Okay, we have... No. Are you joking? Why do I have to pay for this one? Why would they do that? I lost all of my rosaries on the climb up, so we couldn't get this checkpoint. If we die now, we go all the way back to the start. But thankfully, there was a shortcut that wasn't too far away, and to everyone's surprise, I was able to lock in and make it to the next bench anyways. Okay, bench. And from there, it was relatively smooth sailing to the summit. Inspect. Don't make me fight a boss up here. Don't make me fight a boss up here. Okay, it's not a boss, it's friendly. It's friendly. It's friendly. Oh my god, we get a double jump. Not only is it a double jump, but it also protects us from the cold, so we can now freely explore Mount Fade without clinging to the heat sources all the time. But I didn't exactly feel like sticking around, so after grabbing a mask shard, I left this cold hill behind and traveled to Belheart to collect a couple new quests. And the quest log was starting to get out of hand, so I started working on that for a bit, including that one for the pale oil. The first ingredient we had to get was in Greymore, underneath the halfway home. Not only do we have to pay to get in, but then we find out that the place is infested with ants. And these guys were still pretty tricky to fight, so it took a few tries. And this is far from the hardest ingredient to get. There we go. Oh, I don't like that that's the second easiest. But before going for the rest of the ingredients, I farmed out a quest and enough rosaries to buy a mask shard and a simple key from the Songlave vendor. With this key, we can go to the deep docks again, unlock this door, and access a new part of the area to get a skull fragment, craft metal, and a flint slate tool, which will temporarily set our weapon on fire. There's also a boss you can fight down here, but I decided to wait until I was a little more geared for this one because I had been hearing horror stories about it for a while. Afterwards, I traveled to Moss Grotto for the second food ingredient. This one was very easy, we just had to talk to the druid again. So now we need to find courier's rasher, crust nut, and pickled muck maggots. It's a very good recipe here. I decided to go for the pickled muck maggot next, which my chat informed me was a drop from a boss in Sinner's Road. And now that we can double jump, we can reach it. I'm not going to enjoy this fight. I can already tell. Oh, it's not a boss. Not yet, anyways. Okay, it is a boss. Alright, Luigi. Luigi was dishing out some cake, the likes of which I had never seen, so you'll have to forgive me for letting my guard down on that first attempt. The boss's kit is relatively simple, the only real challenge is that one of its attacks inflicts this mega debuff. But as long as you're very careful around that one attack, the fight isn't that bad. So, after just a couple of attempts... What? The boss completely bugged out. I quit out to try again, only to have the exact same thing happen. Did it happen again? What is going on? After a while, I figured out that this boss didn't play nice with our venom debuff when it transitioned to phase 2. So I refrained from using it in the first phase, and just a few minutes later, we had our pickled muck maggot. We're going to save the most annoying ingredient for last, which means we are now going after the crest nut next, which can be found in the sands of Karak. On the way to that new area, I found yet another vendor that will be needing to buy out. No. So many more rosaries. To help with that endeavor, I bought this Thief's Mark tool, which will give us more rosaries per enemy kill. In this new area, you have to summon in these branches that would temporarily allow you to platform to the next safe area. But if you miss a platform, or just take too long, you're falling into the double damage hazards. And of course, there would also be enemies sprinkled in here and there too. Now, again, I am not great at platforming, and when you combine this with the fact that the first bench is on the far right side of the area, the stage was set for a very miserable time. But the platforming difficulty only spiked after finding that bench. You now had to make much more difficult jumps in way less time, so I struggled for a while here. Eventually, I made it through and opened up a shortcut, though it's not much faster, you just don't have to do those crazy jumps anymore. Then, after destroying about 1,000 breakable walls, we found our crest nut. But before leaving this place, we had a boss fight to do. No! No! Why are you here, dude? Holy shit. This thing has leveled up considerably since we last saw it. Not the ads! No! No! And the run back wasn't great either because I still had to platform back to it every time, which took about a minute and a half. And I remembered really struggling with this boss, but now that I'm looking at the footage, it only took about 4 attempts to beat it. So my reaction might seem a bit odd, but man, did this area really get to me. Yes! You suck! Alright. I picked up a new tool after the boss fight, and with that, it was time to acquire the final ingredient. The courier's rasher starts off easy. You just have to go to Belhart and take it from this NPC, but this ingredient has a timer. And if that timer runs out before you get to the NPC all the way in the Citadel, you have to try again. Oh, and if you ever take damage or even bump into a wall, you'll lose a significant chunk of time. And no, we can't fast travel. This would have been the second greatest hurdle of the run, had it not been for my chat. You see, they informed me that there's a hidden shortcut from Greymore through a place called the Wisp Thicket and into the underworks, which would cut out a significant amount of travel time. But we still had a long way to go and many enemies and hazards to avoid. And the enemies in the Wisp Thicket were extremely strong and quite hard to dodge, so I was dying over and over just trying to get through the area for the first time. So at this point, I wasn't exactly convinced this would be any easier, but I trusted them and gave it a go. And on my first attempt, I took quite a few hits, spent a fair bit of time just trying to remember the route to the NPC, and even still, I made it well into the coral chambers before running out of time. This looked very doable. We unfortunately regressed a bit on the second attempt, but on attempt 3, we made it through the thicket unscathed.
I may have gone too high up. I did. Shit.
Oh, that's so bad. No. I think this would have been the one. But just for practice, I decided to see the run through, and I'm really glad I did.
Oh my god, we're so close. Bro, did we do it? I think we did it. Even with that hit, we did it. Pale oil, which means we can upgrade our pin.
Whoa. But the upgrades don't stop there. I am 1 mask shard away from our 7th mask, which will effectively be our first actual health upgrade because of how many enemies deal double damage in this game. Unfortunately, it's locked behind another savage beastfly. So while I mentally prepare myself for that, if you guys have enjoyed the video so far, double check that you're subscribed so you can get recommended more of my videos just like this one. This beastfly is the same double damage boss we fought before, but with a couple key additions. This time around, the boss will gradually shrink the platform that you stand on. And the ads are much more annoying too, as they shoot exploding fireballs at you from a distance. I put on the magma bell to protect against these enemies, which helped a lot, but even still, it sucked. In the end, it took 9 attempts to take this thing down.
There we go. Okay, we got it.
That was certainly a boss, but that means let's go. Afterwards, I went back to the thicket to tackle a boss that I noticed earlier that day. In order to damage Silksong's Bed of Chaos, you must first destroy these 4 lanterns. These lanterns are very high up, so you have to pogo between them while avoiding the barrage of fireballs coming your way. Then, once the lanterns go down, the boss alternates between a bullet hell attack and a damage window phase where you still have to avoid those fireballs. It's not really a difficult fight, but it's just very tedious and not super enjoyable.
There we go. We got him. Don't.
I'm so pissed. Okay, we got a wisp fire lantern. From what I could gather, it's pretty terrible, but again, we need it for completion. I then was told to travel back to the Weave Nest in Moss Grotto to get another upgrade. This Vesta crest gives us another yellow tool slot. While I was there, I also found another spool fragment and mask shard that I had missed before. Then I went back to the sands of Karak, entered this hidden area called the Vault Nest, and defeated this boss for another tool. From there, I made the decision to grind out some rosaries so I could completely buy out all of the vendors and make great strides towards 100% completion. I spent a good hour farming these knights in the Citadel, and bought any tools or spool fragments that were still left for sale. I then finished every quest available to us, and from there, it was time to start progressing towards the endgame, which meant exploring the rest of the Citadel. The first area I went to was called the Cogwork Core, which was quite a difficult platforming area that had one of my favorite tracks in the game. I grabbed a mask shard and a spool fragment here, and progressed east into the Whispering Vaults. Oh, pale oil! Which means once I get 500 more rosaries, we'll get the next weapon upgrade. With the help of my chat, I then found a super hidden entrance to a new area. Though, after picking up this memory locket, I turned back because my chat told me this next area sucks. And, they were right. I picked up another mask shard in the vaults and found a new boss. Trovio was a very interesting boss, and it was also a very easy one, so we took it down second try for a new tool.
At this point, I had 500 rosaries, so I went back to Belheart and upgraded our weapon before returning to the deep docks to tackle that tricky boss that I mentioned a while ago. Here we go. Four-brother Signis. Now, this boss on its own is quite simple. However, like many others in this game, this one spawns ads. But thankfully, with our upgraded nail, it didn't take too many hits to defeat them. And, thanks to our Magma Bell, we were only taking 1 point of damage from most attacks, so things were going really well. Oh, there's another one. Yeah, I hadn't even reached the halfway point yet, and it was quickly becoming clear why everybody was molding against this one. No. This bullshit. But on the next attempt, I tried something new. I mean, if you guys I can just range you if you guys want to stay over there. That's fine by me. But the fight doesn't end there. Ornstein is now pissed that I killed his best buddy, and he is now leveled up as a result. Oh, and there's also now lava pouring down from the center of the arena. I'm so glad I didn't do this fight earlier, because this was rough with all of the weapon upgrades, our saw blades, and the Magma Bell. I don't even want to think about doing this one without all those upgrades. With that boss out of the way, we unlock a new area, but it won't really be relevant until later on. So it was time to learn the 3 songs of the Citadel. Oh, right. Okay, this is a platforming area. Uh-oh. I find the platforming so much harder in this game. But to my surprise, I actually really enjoyed this small platforming section and just barely made it through the first try. At the top, we solve a puzzle to line up these music notes and learn the architect's melody. The second melody is located in the high halls, where we had to do another short platforming section. I found this one harder than the last because we have some pretty annoying enemies to deal with at the same time, but on the next attempt, I was able to lure the enemies to the bottom and defeat them beforehand. I then picked up a spool fragment, constructed this tool with craft metal, and used a simple key to unlock this door, where inside we could pick up yet another tool. This is probably the boss. It was actually an enemy gauntlet that led into a mini-boss. Don't be a boss after all this. Might as well be, dude. But thankfully, no ad spawned in, so I managed to defeat it on the first try. There we go. What? It's not over. How long does this go? I feel like I'm doing a Coliseum right now. The 2 of the big guys? That's evil. If it weren't for my saw blades and some luck, I have no doubt that I would have died here and been forced to try the whole thing over again. But we made it through, and afterwards I was able to learn the conductor's melody. The last melody was extremely easy to learn. I just picked up this sacred cylinder in the vaults and gave it to this vault keeper NPC to learn it. Then I played my needle in for these guys again and could enter the lift. Whoa. Oh, is that Lace? Yes, and she has been training since we last fought. Brother? Damn, okay. 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 For this one, I put on the magnetite dice, a tool that I had received in the Blasted Steppes. The tooltip isn't very clear about what it does, but my chat discovered that it has a chance to negate damage. And the best part is that it's a yellow tool, despite most yellows being reserved for non-combat related effects. But we'd of course have to get very lucky to get carried through this fight by the dice alone, so we had to practice. It took a few attempts, but eventually we reached the second phase. Alright, we're getting it, we're getting it. And a couple attempts after that, we took her down and gained another silk heart. And if we wanted to, we could defeat the final boss right now and roll the credits. And while I can't actually see our exact in-game percentage yet, I was positive we still had a ways to go before 100% completion, so I held off for now. Instead, I went back to that hidden entrance in the vaults to a place called Bile Water. Remember that mega debuff from Sinner's Road? Well, it's back and it's everywhere here. There's also no bench at the start of the area, so if you die before you find one, it's a long way back. After finding the first bench in the map, I was starting to feel much better about this place. But I had no idea what I was in for. I slowly but surely platformed my way past these bile-spitting enemies until I finally reached the next bench at the top of the area. Here's this bench. Is not safe though. What? Oh, and here, have some maggots on the way out. What is that horseshit? There actually is another bench near the top of the area, but you have to navigate through more maggots, more traps, and even more enemies that shoot you from afar until by some miracle, you spot this breakable wall, which leads you on the path to this hidden bench. I seriously doubt I would have found this without my chat telling me about it, but wait, it gets worse. We travel up the way we came and towards the top left of the area to find an enemy gauntlet. No!
No. The enemies here are very obnoxious as they like to stay just outside your range and projectile you down. Then they'll dive into the maggots, forcing you to just wait around until they resurface. At which point you can hopefully finish them off. What? We then have some more enemies, some more traps, and then even more enemies. But thankfully, I was able to deal with them on the first try, so we don't have to do that ever again. Okay. We got it. Oh, or did we? No! Are you joking? Into a boss? What? That's so bad. That is with ads. With ads. With ads. Why? Oh my god, it's so far. It's so far away. But you know what's farther? The run back for the poor souls who never found this hidden bench. They had to platform through the entirety of Bile water every time. I cannot fathom why they hid this bench. And when you finally do get back, you have to get through that tedious gauntlet again just to have another chance at beating this boss. All of these factors combine to create the most rage-inducing area possible. There is zero doubt in my mind that if I never found that hidden bench, I would have quit the game at least temporarily. Because even with this bench, it was awful. No. Oh, and then to top it all off, this happened. Okay, Reapers, what is going on? How am I missing? Wait, what? Why is it immune? You can't bug here. You cannot bug here. That's so stupid. But I knew there was no way the game could get worse from here, so I did my best to try and roll the punches until eventually... Yes! You suck! It's okay, man, here's a bench. Why do they not have a bench closer to this guy if you're gonna have... I've ranted enough about this little shit. After the boss, I picked up something called a Secret Soul, the final key for the slab, a quest, a mask shard, which gets us our 8th mask, and this twisted bud as a Bile water souvenir. Go on the map. What? It plays on the map? Oh my god. I wanted to get rid of this baby ASAP, so after picking up some more quests in Songlave, I traveled to Shellwood and gave it to this NPC, which may have not been a good idea. Oh. What? Okay. This gave us the crest of the witch, but also cursed us, preventing us from binding and using skills and tools. I escaped the chapel and talked to some NPCs that directed me to this hermit above Greymore, who's actually a surgeon and might be able to help us out. And after getting her the required tools from these guys in Sinner's Road, she's able to conduct the operation and rid us of this curse. Then with that key we got earlier, I went back to the slab and opened up some doors to find a memory locket, a mask shard, and the broodmother. And while I thought I had now explored everything here, there was still one thing we missed, so we'll be back here soon. I then started working on some of those Songlave quests and explored around the Citadel some more. First up was the Memoriam. Here I found another memory locket, spool fragment, and this Flea mini-boss, which was easy enough to defeat. Then I found yet another secret entrance to an area I absolutely would have missed if I hadn't been told about it. Oh, and would you look at that, our favorite debuff is back. But compared to Bile water, the ducks weren't actually that bad at all. Though it did take a while to find the map to the area because you have to purposely get grabbed by this vine enemy to find it. I then found this breakable wall, which led us to this tool that grants the player immunity to the maggots. Which is nice, but it's a little late seeing as I've already played through all 3 maggot zones. There's also a secret area within this secret area where you have to, again, purposely get grabbed by an enemy, but I missed that the first time through. Speaking of secret areas, it was now time to go find what I missed in the slab. If we jump into the ceiling and break these chains, we find the Lost Sinner boss, which is easily one of my favorite fights in this game. And I completely missed this thing until my community told me about it. There we go. Wow. Or is it not dead? Fake? Yes, fake. Okay. Oh, shit. I can't believe I would have just missed this whole fight. That's crazy. Such a cool fight to be locked behind a very easy area to miss. No! Shit.
This fight was quite difficult, but still felt very fair, and I was able to do it on my second attempt. There we go. Wow. That was so good. We got a new skill called Rune Rage, and while it looks pretty cool, it didn't seem that great. Next, I had the absolute pleasure to return to Bile Water for a tool that I had missed and a quest. Then I traveled back to the secret area in the Purified Ducks, and platformed my way to this NPC named Vog. Vog is extremely important because he sells the map locations of all of the lost fleas, and you have to save every single flea in order to 100% this game. So, after completing a couple of quests for a spool fragment and a tool, I spent 40 minutes hunting down the remaining fleas. Though, one in particular probably should have been left behind. Yeah, he creeping. That's awesome. The last flea was locked behind an area called the Mist, which has a Lost Woods puzzle to it. And funnily enough, I fluked my way to the halfway point before figuring it out. But the idea is to play the needle in next to these butterflies you see in the area, and they'll fly you towards the correct path. We then enter this building to confront the source of the fog, and this one was pretty easy. The moveset was very similar to Hornet's moveset in the first game, so I beat it on the second try. Whoa, what? RT to parry. Oh, did we learn a new skill? This skill seemed really good, but I generally prefer to save my silk for healing in this game, so I didn't use it too much. And with that, the mist has faded, and we can rescue the last flea. At this point, the Flea caravan is supposed to move to its last location, but for some reason, that event doesn't want to trigger yet, so we'll be coming back here later. Before challenging the final boss, I wanted to get 3 more mask shards to get us up to 9 masks. So, I double-checked the map and explored every room that wasn't filled in. It took a while, but I eventually got my 9th mask, and also got some more memory lockets and tools that I had missed out on. The most notable being the Pimpolo tool, which is a very expensive tool to craft, but the price reflects its DPS. With that, we're ready for the final boss, and if we defeat it now, we'll complete Act 2 and roll the credits. However, in order to 100% Silksong, we need to enter Act 3, and to enter Act 3, you must complete a quest that's given by the caretaker in Songlave. However, it wasn't quite available for some reason. While I was there in Songlave, I noticed some new items in the shop, grinded out some rosaries, and bought them all. Then I double-checked the Flea caravan, and they were now ready to move, which seemed to be the final check I needed to get access to the Act 3 quest. After collecting these ingredients, this caretaker would help fashion a trap to use on the final boss, which would trigger an alternate ending and take us to Act 3. One of the ingredients was in the Weave Nest in Moss Grotto, and while I was there, I talked to Eva, who said to come back here later when we have expanded our nature, which just means once you've used a certain amount of memory lockets on your crests. I was still a ways out from the last 2 upgrades, but I was able to expand our Vesta crest, which gave us another blue slot. My chat then told me about this crest I was missing in the underworks, which also reminded me that this vendor exists, so I bought them out and found the remaining memory lockets available before Act 3. After returning to Eva, we get yet another upgrade to our Hunter's crest. Again, this seems really broken, and I'll definitely try it out on subsequent playthroughs. And I also received a very handy ability called Silksong, which allows us to regenerate silk while resting at the bench. At this point, we had all the ingredients for the trap, so after skimming through this extremely important dialogue that tells us what to do with it, it was time to take down the final boss, Grandmother Silk. And the bombs went crazy in this fight. I brought it down to the next phase extremely quickly. Okay. I don't like this. One really bad heal later, and I get hit with a triple damage attack and die shortly thereafter. We're gonna run that back. On the next attempt, I was doing pretty well, and then decided to dash into the rock slide for some reason. But third try is the charm. Okay, wait, quick chat. Needling. I'm needling in. I'm playing music. Oh. Yes. Oh, wrong option. Game over. The credits now roll, but this is far from over. Whoa, what the hell? My save. Whoa, this is cool. Abyss. We wake up to find that Farloom has been ensnared in the void. Enemies are much stronger now and have new attacks, and lots of NPCs just kind of died. So we're tasked with confronting the caretaker in the ruined chapel, because obviously this isn't what Hornet signed up for. But before we can fast travel again,
we had to take down this Bell Eater, which was a surprisingly difficult boss for how simple the attack patterns were. So it took a couple tries, but it was worth it because we then get to experience the best moment of Silksong. Oh! Oh, got his ass! Oh, that was sick. We then played some music together and discovered that the Bell Beast has been busy while we were gone. Oh my god, it made babies. With this melody, we can fast travel back to the Bell Beast whenever we want. After confronting the Snail Shamans, we hypothesized that the Silk Mother is resisting and causing all these problems to try and save Lace. But there's only one way to find out. To descend into the abyss, we convinced this guy named Bile to take a break from his work to operate this rickety old bell, which is supposed to get us down there safely. And wouldn't you know it, the whole thing completely falls apart on the way down, and we are now trapped in the abyss. But of course, we're unfazed and explore the area past some very delightful enemies to find Lace, or I guess some kind of vision of her. But we find out that Lace is perfectly happy with how things have played out, and she just wants to see the whole world burn. But we can't let that happen because we still haven't made it to 100%. Afterwards, we enter another weave nest down here where we find the Farsight item, which is something I've been waiting for since I started this run. And also, the Silksong ability, which is just the thing we needed to escape the abyss. And this platforming sequence out of the abyss was honestly incredible. Back at the Snail Shamans, I was able to grab this new crest and come up with a new game plan. To cut Farloom free, we need to descend further into the abyss. And to protect us from the void, we're going to use a special flower from Hornet's memory, but we need lots of power to help conjure this flower, so the Shamans tell us to gather the hearts of the last successors of Farloom, which means Act 3 bosses, and they do not mess around. But before any of that, we had much more pressing matters to attend to. That's right, the Festival of the Flea. Here, we must compete in 3 separate minigames and get the high score in each to become the champion of the Flea. This is actually very important because the reward is a nail upgrade, but these were surprisingly difficult. The first minigame had you try and dodge the onslaught of fleas to stay atop this platform as long as possible, and the score you had to beat was 65. No! Okay, 65 can't be that hard. We can do that. We can do 65. Focus, focus, chat, focus. This took me like 15 minutes to do, and according to my chat, this isn't even the hardest minigame. Okay, Flea juggle. Apparently it's hard. Let's do it first try. We gotta get like 30 or something for this. Oh, this is easy, chat. What? You guys... This is really easy. Oh, fuck. Never mind. Oh, shit. Okay. My chat suggested putting on the Shaman Crest for range attacks and staying grounded. And thanks to those suggestions, it actually took me less time to complete this one than the first minigame. No. Okay, that wasn't so bad. The final minigame had you pogo on the fleas, and this one was a joke by comparison. After picking up her pale oil, I traveled back to Bellheart to find that the Pinmaster was missing. But while we're here, I went into our house that we were graciously given for helping around town, and assembled the Farsight. Is this completion percentage? Anything over 80, I'm happy. 85. That's not terrible. I then found and saved the Pinmaster in Shellwood and got our final nail upgrade. Afterwards, with the help of my chat, I found the last silk skill, Pale Nails, and traveled to a secret part of the White Ward to grab a spool fragment and defeat a boss that gave us the last silk heart. From there, I started completing the new Act 3 quests, and one of them was quite close to one of those Act 3 bosses. Apparently these are really hard, so I'm a little scared. But before we can fight the boss, we had to fight a short enemy gauntlet every time, which I wasn't a fan of. However, the boss itself did not disappoint. She was super fast and had a multitude of different attacks to weave between, so it took me almost 45 minutes to defeat this one. But I actually didn't mind getting farmed because the fight still felt very fair. There we go. Whoa, that was sick, what? With that, we've obtained the first of 3 hearts, but before leaving Farfields, I completed that quest that I originally came here for, that had you beat this guy 3 times in a race. And the trick is to literally beat the guy in the race to slow him down. The next heart was located in a secret area of Shellwood, but guarding it was a special boss named Shrine Guardian Seth. This boss was designed by Seth Goldman, a Hollow Knight fan who was battling cancer back in 2020. And he got the chance to collaborate with Team Cherry to create this boss. Goldman's case was terminal, but he got the chance to see the boss in action before he passed.
Team Cherry did an incredible job with this fight, and it was an honor to see Seth's memory live on in this game and get my ass kicked by him. Thankfully, there was no gauntlet before the next memory boss Nihilith, and I wouldn't say this fight was very hard, but I certainly wasn't very good at it. Oh no, not one of these fights. So it took a few attempts, but with some well-timed pogos and harpoons, I was able to get our next heart, which means just one more remains. After playing our Needlin in the Blasted Steppes, we are transported back in time to a place called the Coral Tower, which is an absolutely gorgeous location, but man, was this one rough. Things start off pretty standard with an enemy gauntlet. There were quite a few tough enemies, but nothing we couldn't handle. However, after defeating the last enemy in the gauntlet, instead of spawning in the boss, a door opened. We then travel up to the next level to find another enemy gauntlet, and this one is much harder. We now have stage hazards and even stronger enemies to deal with, but to my surprise, I still made it through. Okay, now is the boss, maybe? No? Oh god. Oh no. Am I gonna have to do that all over again? But it could be worse, because after defeating that third gauntlet, Team Cherry was gracious enough to give us a shortcut that lets you skip straight to the final gauntlet and boss. And it's pretty hard to miss, so we should be Uh-oh. If we die now, we have to do those 3 gauntlets all over again. And while he wasn't super difficult, so far he's pretty chill, the pressure was starting to get to me. No. No. No, no. Yes! Okay. Yes, first try. Okay, thank God it wasn't that hard. Oh, this is my heart right now. After returning to the shamans, we got a long memory sequence rich with lore and obtained the Everbloom. With that, we can now challenge the true final boss. However, we're going to hold off for now because we are still a ways from 100% completion. So I started working on some more quests. I traveled to Mount Fae and defeated the Pinstress, before heading back to the Citadel to defeat the new Tormented Trobio. Both of them were pretty easy and gave us a new tool. Then I completed 2 quests by destroying some dark hearts around Farloom and defeating this guy in the Farfields to get 2 more mask shards. Next, we solved some puzzles for Cogwork pieces, which let us revive this NPC, the second Sentinel. I pick up a quest in Songlave to defeat him, and I think this one was intended for Act 2 because it was very easy. Afterwards, we are rewarded with the Reserve Bind tool, which gives you 1 silk-free heal. Next, we head back to Hunter's March to pick up a couple tools that I had missed, including the Fractured Mask, a tool that will protect Hornet from fatal damage. It will shatter upon use and must be repaired at a bench, but it's pretty handy in boss fights. With that, I hunted down the remaining 5 tools, the last mask shard, and also did this optional area called Verdania, which shows where the Green Prince was from and sheds some light on what inspired the Cogwork dancers. And there's the fragment. Let's go, dude. That's 100. Yes, dude, we did it. But we're not quite done yet. It was now finally time to descend into the abyss and challenge the true final boss. Hello. Oh, do we fight? No, just Lace, right? The fight starts off pretty easy, as we've already fought this boss 2 times before now. But then we're gradually introduced to new void attacks that have been added to Lace's arsenal. Damn. Alright. We're kind of getting bodied. So, to help learn this fight, I put on the Reserve Bind for the free heal and the Fractured Mask so we can live an extra hit. And it helped, but the progress was quite slow. It took 20 minutes just to reach Phase 2. Okay, Phase 2. What you got? And honestly, I found other bosses in this game to be harder on paper, but this fight wasn't a sprint. It was a marathon. Ah, damn. That attempt started 5 minutes ago. Granted, because I was new to the fight, I was missing punish windows here and there, but we are still a ways off from defeating Lace. So while I was planning to show the final attempt in full, I'll be cutting this one up a little. Okay, just focus. Okay, that one's pretty sloppy, but focus here, and I can do it.
that it? Uh-oh. Oh. Oh, sick. Okay, I think we got it. Oh, it's my goat. While there were some very frustrating moments in this game, Silksong was still an incredible experience, and I'm so glad I stuck with it this time around and didn't make that same mistake that I did with Hollow Knight. Speaking of, if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like the one where I raced to 112% Hollow Knight before Silksong came out. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.